So there's the news around Man City. We spoke about it before with Javier Tebas and the case around La Liga and what he was trying to do with Man City and PSG. It's now emerged that Man City will face no action from the European Commission following that complaint. Is that no real surprise given the circumstances around it?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at this a while ago, and I did contact the European Commission, and they weren't giving much away, but did seem to confirm that they were still looking at it when the original comments were made. But then it didn't seem to fit with their stated timetables on their own website. So I never really thought that it was likely to go anywhere. So not a real surprise. I think it would be quite an action for the European Commission to start looking into something of this nature. It didn't seem to fit that well with their usual areas of interest. So look, Tebas has been a long-standing critic of City and PSG in particular, but I guess from his perspective, his responsibilities are towards his league, and the reality, I guess, is that City and PSG have taken away some kind of commercial benefit from La Liga, and therefore, I think in a sense, it is legitimate for him to battle for his league. His clubs are La Liga clubs. He doesn't have a responsibility to City or to PSG, and therefore he needs to support his clubs wherever he can. And so, to that extent, I think it's sort of reasonable behaviour. But I don't think he ever really believed that the EC would investigate or more, and it now looks like that's the case. They didn't. I did contact them again. They didn't formally confirm to me the story that was written that there will be no action. So they weren't prepared to say any more about the situation than they had said historically.
Mm. And then, obviously, we've talked several times now about Florian Wverson, Man City's interest in him. It looks like they've cooled their interest at the moment in time. Do you think that's just purely down to the finances involved, with that being a major stumbling block, really, for them?
Well, we spoke a couple of times about how difficult it would be for anybody to do this deal, and not just City. But then, I think it's unlikely that the real reason for City pulling out is financial. I think City almost certainly would be able to cope with the financial burden of the deal better than anybody else, and therefore you have to assume that the reality is that he's just told them that he'd rather go somewhere else. And then the question will be back to where we were when we discussed this in previous weeks, as to whether people can find a landing on what the right price is and what the right fee is. And it certainly doesn't look that clear at the moment that Bayern Munich can do the deal. And I'm very sceptical as to whether Liverpool would be prepared to pay, let's say, in excess of €100 million or £100 million. Maybe they do £100 million. They did offer for players in the past at that sort of level, so maybe they do £100 million, but I suspect they wouldn't go much higher. And so I don't know. I mean, it's really just going to be a case of what Leverkusen would accept and where the player's prepared to go. But my gut feel is that he's told City that he'd prefer to go to Bayern Munich. Maybe Bayern Munich or Liverpool, I don't know. But certainly I think he'd prefer to go to Bayern Munich, and City have just said, well, we're not going to commit €300 million over 5 years if you're not even keen to come. Forget it. It's just, it's the nature of buying the very best players in the world. They're super expensive, and if they're not interested in coming, then you can't afford to take the risk of forcing a signing of that kind of scale.
Pep Guardiola revealed after the Bournemouth game the other night that he would quit if he had to work with a big squad next season. Do you think that's likely to impact Manchester City's transfer dealings and how they operate this summer if they're not going to bring in that many people?
Well, it won't come out of the blue. I think the situation is that he's got something like 5 players right now, because the squad is now effectively fully fit. I think, aside from John Stones, maybe you got about 5 players who can't even get on the bench, and obviously he doesn't like dealing with that. That's too many players, but it's not normal that you would have your fully fit squad. So the problem that they've got is they bought 3 players in January, and on top of that, they've probably had 2 or 3 players come through the youth system into the team. So O'Reilly and players like this, and so the squad has become a little bit bloated. And the challenge will be removing, let's say, 10 players. That will not be straightforward. So selling or loaning 10 players could be before you start signing in new players. So we'll see in the summer. I think it is a challenge. He's obviously not going to resign, and City will do what he wants to do.